I never thought I'd be writing this, but I'm at my breaking point and need outside perspective. This is a long and complicated story, so please bear with me. I'll try to provide all the relevant background information. My brother Jake and I lost our parents in a tragic car accident when I was 18 and he was 22. It was devastating, but Jake stepped up in ways I could never have imagined. He was just finishing college at the time, but he put his plans for grad school on hold to take care of me. He worked 2 jobs to help me through college, made sure I had everything I needed, and basically became both brother and parent to me. For years, it was just us against the world, and our bond was unbreakable. Or so I thought. The problem started 5 years ago when Jake decided to play matchmaker. His best friend Mark had been a constant presence in our lives since Jake met him in college. Mark was always around for holidays, family events, and casual hangouts. He was like another brother to me, which is why I was surprised when Jake started pushing for us to date. At first, I refused. I told Jake it would be weird because I'd known Mark for so long and saw him as family. But Jake was persistent. He would constantly bring up how successful Mark was, he's an investment banker, how he was looking to settle down, and how perfect we'd be together. After months of pressure, I agreed to go on a date with Mark just to make Jake happy. Mark and I ended up going on 3 dates in total. He was nice enough, polite, well-established, and obviously trying his best to make things work. But there was zero chemistry. We had nothing in common beyond our connection to Jake. Mark liked expensive restaurants and talking about the stock market. I preferred casual diners and discussing my work with special needs kids. I'm a special education teacher. Our conversations were forced and awkward. After the 3rd date, I told Mark honestly that I didn't feel any romantic connection. He seemed relieved and agreed it wasn't working. When I told Jake, he acted understanding. He said something like, "Well, at least you tried," and I thought that was the end of it. Looking back, I should have noticed how his smile didn't reach his eyes. A few months later, I met Alex at a fundraising event for my school. He's a software engineer who was volunteering to teach coding to underprivileged kids. We clicked instantly. He was funny, kind, and passionate about making a difference. We started dating, and for the first time in my life, I knew what real connection felt like. That's when Jake's behavior started changing. At first, it was subtle. He would make backhanded comments about Alex's job. "Oh, another tech bro?" His appearance, "Mark always dresses so much better," or his background, "Are you sure his family is, you know, good enough?" I tried to brush it off as brotherly protectiveness. But things escalated quickly. Jake started skipping family dinners if Alex was coming. He would forget to invite us to events where Mark was present. He began telling our extended family that Alex was using me for money, which is laughable because teachers don't exactly make bank, and Alex makes 3 times my salary. When Alex proposed 2 years ago, Jake lost it completely. He told everyone who would listen that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. He contacted Alex's ex-girlfriends trying to dig up dirt on him. He even went to my principal with false accusations about Alex being inappropriate with students during his volunteer work. Thankfully, no one believed him because Alex had an impeccable record and multiple character witnesses. The wedding was a disaster. Jake refused to attend and convinced half the family to boycott it too. Our elderly grandmother, who raised money all year to fly in for the wedding, called the night before to say she couldn't come because Jake told her Alex had a violent criminal record. He doesn't. What makes this all so bizarre is that Mark got married last year to a lovely woman named Sarah. They seem incredibly happy together, and Mark has never shown any sign of being heartbroken over me. In fact, he and Sarah invited Alex and me to their wedding, though we couldn't attend because Jake threatened to make a scene if we came. Everything came to a head at last month's family reunion. Jake had been drinking and started loudly telling everyone how I had led Mark on and broke his heart. He claimed I had dated Mark seriously for months and then dumped him cruelly for Alex. When Alex calmly tried to correct him, pointing out that Mark was happily married now, Jake snapped. He lunged at Alex and tried to punch him. It took 3 uncles to pull them apart. I tried talking to Jake privately after everyone calmed down. I wanted to understand why he was doing this. His response chilled me to the bone. He said I had betrayed him by not choosing Mark. That he had always planned for his best friend to become his brother-in-law, and I ruined everything by being selfish. When I pointed out that Mark was happy with Sarah, Jake said that was settling because I broke him. I'm at a loss. Jake was my rock after our parents died. He sacrificed so much for me, and I love him dearly. But I can't keep watching him try to destroy my marriage and spread lies about me. Alex recently got a job offer in California, and I'm seriously considering taking it just to get away from all this drama. But is running away the right answer? Am I betraying Jake by choosing my husband over family? Should I have tried harder with Mark just to make Jake happy? I just need some outside perspective. Am I crazy for thinking Jake's behavior is way out of line? And what should I do about the family members who believe his lies? Edit to clarify, some people are asking about Mark's perspective in all this. I haven't spoken to him directly about Jake's claims because I don't want to create more drama. As far as I know, he's happy with Sarah and hasn't encouraged any of Jake's behavior. Update: when I wish I could say things got better after my last post, but the reality is so much worse than I imagined. After reading everyone's comments suggesting I talk to Mark directly, I decided to reach out to him. I got his number from a mutual friend and sent him a simple text asking if we could meet to clear the air. Mark responded almost immediately, suggesting we meet at a coffee shop near his office. I was nervous about meeting him alone, so Alex came with me but waited in the car. What happened next still feels surreal. When Mark saw me, his first words were, "Are you safe? Did you finally get away from him?" I was completely confused. Mark looked genuinely concerned, and it took me a few minutes to understand he was talking about Alex, not Jake. For the next 2 hours, Mark showed me hundreds of text messages, emails, and even handwritten letters from Jake spanning the last 5 years. The story Jake had been telling Mark was so twisted, I barely recognized my own life in it. According to Jake's messages, Alex had been blackmailing me with inappropriate photos from a work party. Jake told Mark that I would cry on his shoulder every week about wanting to be with Mark instead, but couldn't leave Alex because he threatened to release the photos and ruin my teaching career. There were detailed messages about fake conversations that never happened, where I supposedly confessed my undying love for Mark. Jake had even created fake email exchanges between us, somehow using an email address similar to mine. In these emails, I told Mark I wanted to run away with him but needed time to figure out how to leave Alex safely. Mark had been responding with supportive messages, telling me to stay strong and that he would wait. The most shocking part? Jake had told Mark that our 3 casual dates had actually been a serious 6-month relationship. He claimed Alex had pursued me aggressively at work, threatened to get me fired if I didn't date him, and eventually blackmailed me into marriage. Mark believed I was basically being held hostage in my own marriage. Mark was devastated when he learned the truth. He apologized probably 50 times during our conversation. He showed me more messages where Jake had begged him not to marry Sarah, claiming I was suicidal over Mark's engagement. The weekend of Mark's wedding, Jake told him I had attempted suicide. I was actually at a teacher conference in Denver. When I showed Mark pictures of how happy Alex and I are, and explained that our relationship started naturally with no coercion, he looked physically ill. He kept saying he should have known something was off about Jake's stories, but Jake had been his best friend for so long that he never questioned it. I left the coffee shop and drove straight to Jake's house with Alex. Jake seemed surprised to see us but invited us in like nothing was wrong. I showed him the screenshots Mark had sent me of their conversations. I expected him to deny everything or try to explain, but what happened instead was even worse. Jake broke down completely. Through tears, he revealed that he had been manipulating my life for money. Apparently, our parents will had a condition I never knew about. If I got married before turning 30, my share of their estate would go to Jake. He had been pushing me toward Mark because Mark had agreed to wait until after my 30th birthday to propose. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My own brother, who I thought had sacrificed everything to raise me, had been orchestrating my entire life for financial gain. All those years of him working 2 jobs weren't just to support me, they were to maintain control over my inheritance. Alex was furious. He wanted to call the police right there, but I was too shocked to think clearly. Jake kept crying and saying he did it for us, that he needed the money to start his own business, that he would have shared it with me eventually. But all I could think about were the years of lies and manipulation. He didn't just try to control my love life, he actively tried to convince people that my husband was abusive and that I was mentally unstable. I left Jake's house without saying another word. Mark has promised to show the messages to our family members who believe Jake's lies. He's also offered to testify if we decide to take legal action about the inheritance situation. We've decided to accept Alex's job offer in California. The company is even expediting the relocation process for us given the circumstances. I never thought I'd say this, but I need to get as far away from Jake as possible. Some family members are telling me I'm overreacting, that Jake raised me and deserves forgiveness. But how do you forgive someone who tried to sell your happiness for money? Who tried to convince your entire family that you were being abused just to control you? Who manipulated and lied to everyone for years? I feel like I'm grieving the brother I thought I had. The person who took care of me after our parents died doesn't exist. He was just playing the long game, waiting to cash in on my life choices. Alex has been amazing through all of this. He's already looking at houses in California and helping me find teaching positions there. We're planning to move next month. I know running away won't solve everything, but I need space to process this betrayal and figure out my next steps. I'll update again once we've spoken to a lawyer about the will situation. For now, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the fact that my entire relationship with my brother might have been a lie. Update 2. I've been hesitant to post this update because each new discovery about Jake makes me feel physically ill. We've been in California for 2 months now, and the distance has given me clarity, but it's also unveiled even more lies. After my last update, I hired a lawyer specializing in estate law. I wanted to understand exactly what conditions our parents had put on their will regarding marriage. The lawyer requested all documents related to the estate, and what she found was shocking. There was no marriage clause in the will. None. Our parents had split everything equally between us, and I should have received my share when I turned 25. The lawyer discovered that Jake had somehow convinced the will's executor that I was mentally unstable and incapable of managing my inheritance. He had forged documents claiming I had severe depression and anxiety after our parents' death. I did go to grief counseling, but it was just standard therapy. He even got someone to pose as my therapist and sign statements saying I was unfit to handle large sums of money. The lawyer estimates Jake has stolen over $300,000 from me over the past 3 years. But it gets worse. While investigating the forged documents, the lawyer found a series of emails between Jake and the fake therapist. Turns out, this person wasn't just a random accomplice, she was Jake's girlfriend. They had been planning this for years, waiting until I turned 25 to execute their scheme. Mark has been incredibly helpful through all this. He provided all the fake emails Jake sent pretending to be me, which helped establish a pattern of fraud. He also revealed that Jake had borrowed large sums of money from him over the years, claiming it was to help pay for my non-existent mental health treatment. We're pressing criminal charges. The evidence is overwhelming: forged documents, fake medical records, embezzled funds, and years of systematic fraud. The prosecutor says it's one of the most calculated cases of familial fraud she's seen. The family has split into 2 camps. My Aunt Rachel, Uncle Pete, and several cousins have been incredibly supportive after seeing the evidence. They've written statements about how Jake manipulated them regarding my marriage to Alex and helped document his pattern of lies. But others, including my grandmother, are still defending Jake. They say he must have had a good reason, that he sacrificed his youth to raise me, that pressing charges against my own brother is unforgivable. My grandmother even called to say she was removing me from her will because I'm destroying the family. I told her Jake had already taught me not to count on inheritances. The hardest part was discovering what Jake did with my money. Bank records show he spent it on luxury cars, expensive vacations, and gambling. All those years I lived frugally as a teacher, thinking we were struggling financially. He was living a secret life of luxury. He even bought his girlfriend, the fake therapist, a beach house while telling me he couldn't afford to help with my student loans. Mark confessed that Jake had once drunkenly bragged about how easy it was to control me. He said I was so grateful for his help after our parents died that I never questioned anything he did. Mark felt guilty for not saying anything sooner, but Jake had manipulated him too, convincing him that any interference would trigger a mental breakdown. Some good has come from this mess. Alex's company is amazing, and I love teaching at my new school. We've made friends with other couples in our neighborhood who have become like family. I'm finally learning what healthy relationships look like. The court date is set for next month. Jake's girlfriend turned on him after the police got involved, and she's agreed to testify in exchange for a lighter sentence. She provided recordings of Jake planning the whole scheme, including his backup plan to blame everything on her if they got caught. It's strange, but I feel more anger toward Jake now than when I thought he was just trying to control my marriage. The marriage scheme was about keeping me close and maintaining his role as my protector. But this was pure greed. He saw me as nothing but a path to easy money. Some relatives are still pressuring me to drop the charges, saying Jake will change if I give him another chance. But I keep thinking about all the times I skipped meals to save money for classroom supplies while he was buying sports cars with my inheritance. About how he let me believe I was struggling financially while he vacationed in Europe with my money. The lawyer says we have a strong case for full restitution, but I know I'll never get back the years I spent trusting and loving someone who saw me as nothing but a cash cow. Update 3. I wasn't planning to post another update, but the events of the past week have changed everything. Jake was arrested last Tuesday, but not just for stealing my inheritance. The police investigation into my case uncovered something much bigger. Apparently, Jake had been embezzling money from his company for years. When detectives looked into his financial records for my case, they found multiple offshore accounts and a pattern of systematic theft totaling over $2 million. He had been stealing from everyone: his company, his friends, and even Mark's investment clients. The police raided his house and found packed suitcases, fake passports, and plane tickets to a non-extradition country. He had been planning to flee the country with his girlfriend and all the stolen money. The detective told me they caught him literally hours before his planned escape. My phone hasn't stopped ringing since his arrest made local news. Family members who called me horrible names for pressing charges are now frantically apologizing, claiming they had no idea how bad things were. My grandmother, who removed me from her will, sent a tearful voicemail begging for forgiveness. She said she found evidence that Jake had been stealing from her retirement fund too. The most shocking call came from Jake's girlfriend. She revealed that Jake had been planning to pin everything on her once they left the country. He had set up the accounts in her name and kept records of her signing documents. She found a letter in his desk detailing how he would turn her into authorities once they were safely abroad, taking all the money for himself. Some relatives are still trying to guilt me into dropping the charges. Uncle Steve called yesterday saying Jake was sorry and crying in his cell. Aunt Linda suggested I tell the police I made everything up. She said family should protect family, no matter what. I blocked both their numbers. The prosecutor says Jake is looking at 15 to 20 years given the scale of his crimes. He's offering to return my inheritance if I testify in his favor, but I refused. The truth needs to come out, all of it. Alex and I bought a house last month. It's smaller than what we could afford, but after everything that happened with Jake, I wanted to live within my teaching salary. We're expecting our first child, a girl, in spring. I've decided to name her after my mom, the parent who actually did love me unconditionally. Mark and his wife Sarah have become close friends. They visit us in California often, and Sarah is planning a baby shower for me. It's ironic that Jake's desperate attempts to push Mark and me together ended up giving me a genuine friendship, just not the way he planned. As for Jake's side of the family, I'm done. I've blocked everyone who defended him or tried to pressure me into dropping charges. Some say I'm being harsh, that family is family. But Jake proved that blood doesn't equal love. The family I've chosen, Alex, our upcoming daughter, our California friends, Mark and Sarah, they're more real than the family I was born into. Jake's sentencing is next month. I won't be attending. I've said everything I need to say in my victim impact statement. Some people think I'll regret cutting ties completely, that I should leave the door open for reconciliation after he serves his time. But there are some bridges that can't be rebuilt. Some betrayals that can't be forgiven. I'm focusing on my future now, my students, my husband, our baby, our new home. Jake took enough years of my life. He doesn't get to take any more. Edit to add, for those asking, yes, the company is pressing full charges, and all his victims, including my grandmother, will be seeking restitution. And no, I won't be responding to any messages about helping Jake. That chapter of my life is permanently closed.